We live in a world where if Joseph Goebbels had been alive today, he would have to enroll at nursery level in a school of manipulative communications technology. Goebbels' original hypothesis of a lie being told several times, which after some time resembles the truth, still holds. But the extent of that manipulation has assumed a shape and size and scope beyond the grasp of human imagination in present day and age. The peddling of that word called truth is now an art form. The manipulation of citizenry and societies at large is a given. Not a day passes when we are not being manipulated on our television and laptop screens and mobile phones. Free speech and the unalloyed truth have been buried in a 20 feet deep pit to creatively give expression to Sanjay Raut's words. It's all happening now, and the best or the worst part of the entire matter is that all parties, political entities, and ideological narratives are involved in this massive deception and manipulation, though it can be said that some are more equal to the task than others. And that is the scope of this particular episode. Let us identify those who lecture the loudest on the virtues of free speech and truth, but in practice are the worst manipulators of what is now being called weapons of mass deception. But all that in a minute. First, a big warm welcome to all viewers of the CAA show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. To join our show, press the big red subscriber button on your screen, and subscription is, of course, completely free. Now, let us look at what is happening in the world of Twitter. After Elon Musk's takeover, the hashtag leaving Twitter is trending. And why would it be trending? Well, quite simply, Twitterati of a certain political and social disposition, which in this case, being left-oriented, are leaving it because they fear that in Twitter's new avatar, the return of Donald Trump, despite his denials, is almost a certainty. And so, if all this is true, what does it tell you? It tells you that up till now, the world's most powerful media engine had shut out former President Trump and perhaps half of right-wing America from expressing their views and opinions on Twitter because the political views of the right did not match with the views of the left democratic forces all over the world. I will press the point a bit more. Think about it. The last time an entire section of society was shut out from expressing their views, it was in the era of Nazi Germany. There was only one kind of narrative being peddled at that time, and that particular time it was a narrative of the Aryan, racist, superhuman Nazis. The domination was amplified by Goebbels' propaganda using primitive media tools of that era, including pamphleteering, print, cinema, and radio. Now flip the same coin in the present era. All the top media giants block Trump and hundreds and thousands of right-wingers from expressing opinion. We can argue whether this opinion is inflammatory or divisive. We can argue that the comparison between Wehrmacht Germany and modern corporations and their managements that block people from expressing their views is false and tedious. We can do that, but in both cases, isn't the result or the end game almost the same? An entire section of society is blocked or cut off from voicing their views, channeling their opinion, from expressing themselves. Even in the war in Ukraine, we have been cut off from watching the Russian narrative completely. We have only a ringside view of the war from a Western perspective. Even if the Russians are the villains in the war, do we not have a right to watch what they have to say for themselves and then we decide for ourselves? Only a certain kind of narrative is encouraged on these platforms. There were minders then in Nazi Germany, and there are minders now that edit and censor or even block content. So, in a sense, pray can someone tell me in tangible terms What is the difference between that era and now? Does not a man in a Nazi uniform or a suit in a high rise or even a youngster in loafers and t shirt and jeans end up doing the same job? And it is only in America and the West, and it is not only in America and the West, but the contradictions which have bubbled to the surface, they have also bubbled to the surface in India. In India, too, we are not very far behind. For decades, an impression has been built in India that everything decent, pluralistic, secular, and sensitive in this country is left oriented or has some association with the proprietorship firm of Gandhi and Gandhi. The right, again by association, has always been the big bad wolf, terrorizing the minorities, instigating riots, communal disharmony, and extremism. Now, if that be the case, how do we understand the response of the secular Maharashtra government to the Navneet Rana issue? No doubt, Navneet Rana and her husband, by urging the Chalisa recitation in front of Mothershri, were playing politics in a bid to embarrass the Maharashtra government. But don't we, in a democracy, fight politics with politics of another persuasion? Since when do we go around policing such matters or invoking sedition laws? And the usual pro democracy, secular, senior opinion makers and journalists and lawyers that habitually put the Modi government in the dock are consciously and conspicuously silent on the issue. Is it not fair then that should not the Arun Shoris, the Shekhar Guptas, the Barkha Dutts, and Sanjay Bharus of the world speak up and be counted on this issue? But mum's the word in this entire morality brigade, and it makes you wonder that they can only preach and screech on matters that are inconvenient to the Modi government but convenient to the in-house rules of their secular, privileged members' club. All this double talk and double dealing also makes you wonder the difference between Goebbels' 1,000 lie propaganda and the twisted manipulation of words, images, and speech we see today across all media platforms. The good guys don't necessarily come in suits or sneakers, as the case may be in the West, and the bad guys in jackboots and saffron scarves in our part of the world. The reality is a bit more complex and certainly more twisted than that. And so, on this note, I come to the end of this episode of the CAA show. I hope you enjoyed this particular episode. Do subscribe to us. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.